the overall theme for 2023 will be Here We Go. This is by Michael Snyder. A lot of people tend to use the phrase here we go when they think that something really good is about to happen, and others tend to use it when they think that something really bad is about to happen. Needless to say, in this case, I'm using the phrase here we go as my overall theme for 2023 because I believe that we are going to be facing a really rough year. I expect that so many of the trends that have been percolating throughout 2022 will greatly accelerate over the next 12 months. So if you were not pleased with 2022, it's likely that you're really not going to enjoy what is ahead of us in 2023. I certainly don't need to tell any of you that 2022 was a very tough year for the economy. It truly was a year when everything started to fall apart, and lots of prominent voices on Wall Street are now warning that things will get even worse in 2023. But if the Federal Reserve were to suddenly reverse course and begin lowering interest rates, that would help the short-term economic outlook a great deal. Unfortunately, this is not going to happen. In fact, Fed officials are openly telling us that they expect interest rates to remain elevated for some time to come. Federal Reserve officials reaffirmed their commitment to combating inflation at their December meeting and indicated that interest rates could remain elevated for some time until there is clear evidence that consumer prices are falling. Minutes from the U.S. Central Bank's December 13 to 14 meeting, released on Wednesday, showed that policymakers worried that investors and financial markets could misinterpret their decision to raise interest rates more slowly as a sign they were ending their campaign to bring prices under control. Officials stressed that the smaller rate hike, 50 base points, compared to the previous fourth 75 base point increases, was not an indication of any weakening and warned of continued risks on the inflation front. So there is no hope on the horizon, and higher rates will continue to crush economic activity for the foreseeable future. And with each passing day, what's happening to the economy is becoming clearer and clearer. For example, we just learned that Salesforce will be laying off approximately 8,000 workers. Salesforce plans to lay off about 10% of its workforce, or nearly 8,000 employees, and reduce its office space as tech companies cut costs amid concerns about the economy. In a note to employees on Wednesday, Chief Executive Officer Mark Benioff said the move comes as customers take a more cautious approach to spending as the economic environment remains challenging. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There will be many more layoffs during the weeks and months to come. Another trend that I will be watching very closely in 2023 is the deterioration of faith in our politicians and in our governmental institutions. The drama that is playing out in Washington right now is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Kevin McCarthy is a prototypical swamp creature, and that is why the establishment loves him. As a Speaker of the House, McCarthy would be in charge of keeping the wheels of corruption in motion. There is so much campaign money that needs to be funneled in the right direction, so many important favors that need to get done, and so many critical deals that need to be orchestrated. The Washington establishment can't afford to have someone with principles as Speaker of the House, and so they're going to keep pushing for McCarthy. Of course, McCarthy is deeply unpopular outside of Washington, but so was Nancy Pelosi. Sadly, that does not really matter because we are not supposed to have a say in these battles, but the American people are getting fed up. They can see the endless corruption that's going on and the popularity of both parties is sinking. And the truth is that politicians from both parties have been lying to our faces over and over again. For many of our politicians, lying is as natural as breathing. Unfortunately, we've got to a point where most of our politicians have lost all of their credibility, and a population that no longer has faith in the system is going to be exceedingly difficult to govern. I also expect 2023 to be a year of great natural disasters. Throughout 2022, there was just one historic disaster after another. It seemed like I was constantly writing about droughts, famines, wildfires, hurricanes, giant storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, and tornadoes. Unfortunately, I believe that The 12 months that are ahead of us will be even worse. If you doubt this, just consider what's been happening over the last few weeks. In late December, colossal bomb cyclone, the winter storm Elliott, brought a once-in-a-generation storm to the Midwest. In fact, the blizzard that we witnessed in Buffalo was the worst storm in the entire recorded history of the city. Just as we were recovering from that mammoth atmospheric river slammed into the west coast, some parts of California received more than 4 feet of snow, and there was catastrophic flooding in other areas. Now here we are just a few days later, and another bomb cyclone is about to hammer California. According to the National Weather Service, it's going to be a truly brutal storm. They said another powerful storm, known as a bomb cyclone, is hitting the California coast, and the National Weather Service in the Bay Area is warning residents that the truly brutal system needs to be taken seriously. The system could trigger immediate disruption to commerce, and worst of all, likely loss of human life, forecasters say. It comes on the heels of a round of record-breaking rainfall that slammed the same area over the weekend. I have never seen two immensely powerful storms hit California so close together. There will be widespread flooding, and conditions in some parts of the state will be so dangerous that authorities are actually encouraging people to have go bags prepared in advance. A dangerous storm system is slamming California, with meteorologists at the National Weather Service warning of imminent widespread flooding, impassable roads, mudslides, landslides, and rapid rises in rivers and creeks. The system, which prompted the Weather Service to take the unusual step of urging residents to have go bags at the ready and prepare insurance documentation in advance, is set to unleash its harshest conditions Wednesday night into early Thursday. Virtually the entirety of north and central California is under flood watches and high wind warnings, with damaging gusts to 60 miles an hour possible. Strong to several thunderstorms could be in the offing as well, in addition to 2 to 4 inches of rain in the lowlands and more in the mountains. In the highest terrain, the heavy rain will transition up to 2 to 4 feet of heavy snow. Along the coast, beaches will be battered by large waves and areas of coastal flooding. I also believe that 2023 will be a year when multiple pestilences run wild all over the planet. These days, it seems like a different disease is making global headlines each week. A few weeks ago, everyone was talking about RSV, and then it was strep A, and now this week, supervariant COVID, deeply alarming authorities. Dr. Eric Fiegel-Ding, an epidemiologist and chief of the COVID Risk Task Force at New England Complex System Institute, has called XBB 1.5 a supervariant. XBB 1.5, which is mutated from the original Omicron strain, appears to be spreading faster than others because it's better at attaching itself to human cells. A mutation in the virus is located at the site where it binds to the human cells, said Wine. To effectively infect humans, the virus needs to bind to cells, and XBB 1.5 seems to do this very tightly. Next week, it might be something else. At this point, there are billions of people that have compromised immune systems. That means that the global population has been perfectly primed for whatever we will see in the future. I certainly can't end this article without talking about war. I expect that both sides will continue to escalate the conflict in Ukraine in 2023, and it appears that the Russians may be preparing a massive new offensive campaign from the north. Meanwhile, tensions in the Middle East continue to rise, and I believe that conflict between Israel and Iran has become inevitable. On the other side of the planet, the Chinese could soon pull the trigger on the invasion of Taiwan, and if that happens, we could also see North Korea invade South Korea while the U.S. is distracted with China. I have been warning of these wars, that they were coming for a long time, and once they erupt, our world will never be the same again. In fact, our world is already radically different from what it was like just a few short years ago. So much changed throughout 2020, 21, and 22. But the pace of change is only going to accelerate even more as we get deeper into 2023. So buckle up and hold on tight, because here we go. And this is by Michael Snyder. He says it's finally here. Michael's new book entitled 10 Times is now available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. About the author, my name is Michael. This is by Michael Snyder, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Truly Matters, Commissions Earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing. And one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and The Most Important News. And the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is on the Economic Collapse blog by Michael Snyder. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box